If you click on that button, you can actually see the variety of colors that you have in your design. And you can just click simulate on one of these keys at the right. You can actually click each stitch to really see every little stitch, or you can grab onto that blue vertical bar and you can drag it as fast or as slow as you want. So I can actually see that this design, it actually stitches the top black area, then we have like a little bit of the red, and then the details, and so on. So if I wanted to resequence this to make sure that we have, say, all of the red stitch out together and then all of the black, then maybe we do the blue and the white, we can do a couple different things. The first thing I can do is I can take a look at the right-hand side, so lower right, where I have sequence. And so this shows me each object that I have and the order in which it will stitch. So the very first part is actually that small red area at the top. If I want to resequence something, I could just click and drag, and I can drag objects. So we can even drag within the same color. So now I have all of the red stitching out first. And if you click on the small plus sign, you'll see all of the other red objects. So it's usually grouping by either color or just by the sequence. So the first part now is actually the larger red base of the design, and the second part would be that small red top. And the next bit we can see is the black, and we can move through and really see each section. Okay, so you can click and drag to move things. You can also just click on an object on the actual screen, and if you right click, you have the option to order. So you have to back, backward, forward, and to front. So to back, we'll send it all the way to the back, meaning it's going to stitch first. If I did to the front, it's going to be all the way on the top and it will stitch very last. So those are really easy to use if you need to send something all the way to the back or all the way to the front. You can also use the other options that would be forward or backwards. So for ordering, I could send this backward just one step. And I can keep going if I need to, and it will just keep going backwards. So again, you can use the extremes all the way to the back, all the way to the front, or you can just do backward, backward. And so now if you noticed that just prior, we have a little bit of that shape overlapping into the red. And when I sent it backwards just once, now it's tucked under the red, and that makes more sense, of course. So sequencing is very important for the visual aspect and also to stitch something out in a really smooth, nice way. Another part of sequencing is combining the colors into groups. If we look at the bottom right sequence panel, or if I actually click on slow redraw, you can see that I have a little bit of black, then I have red, then I have black again, white, black again, red, black. So we're really switching back and forth between the black and the other colors. And even with the blues, it will do one section of the blue, so the lettering, Then it switches to do some details. And then that's my actual text at the bottom. And then it goes back into doing the blue. So we want the blue to stitch out all at the same time. That's going to save time when our machine is color changing. So it won't have to say use needle number 2, stop, move to another needle, stitch it, then go back to needle number 2. So you can easily, again, just drag and drop your areas or groups in the lower right-hand sequence panel. Occasionally, there is an option that will work really nicely with your design, and it's found in the Edit drop-down menu, and you can see it says Resequence by Color. So I'm going to open just a new page and show you a little example of how we might want to resequence by color. So let's say we're making a design and we have quite a few different shapes or objects. And we have a couple of them are one color and a couple are another color. Now, if we look at my sequence panel, or if we look at the slow redraw, we can see that we have red, purple, yellow, red, yellow, purple. That doesn't make sense, especially when these shapes are just scattered. Nothing is really layered. In this case, what I want to do is I could select everything, edit, resequence by color, and it's going to group them into way less color changes. So these red colors, they are different tones. There's actually, this one's actually pink. So let me just change them all to the same. And again, you can take your design, resequence by color. Now we just have 3 steps. And that's going to be much easier for the machine. That's going to be much more efficient for you. And it makes a lot more sense just to resequence in that method. Now, in the case that we have, say, things that are layered on top of each other, then that option may not work because we might want something to be layered in a very specific method. Or if, say, we have something that is going on a hat and we want it to stitch from the middle going outwards, then we wouldn't really want it to resequence by color. We might want it to do, the red, yellow stars in the middle, then the red and purple, then purple again, and so on. So just giving an example of this, at this point, we probably, if we're putting this on a hat, we don't want to resequence by color because we want it to begin from the center, moving outwards. So the yellow, red, purple, yellow, red, and going out the other way. So when we're designing something for a hat, we will manually resequence so that it begins center moving outwards, bottom moving up. If we are using text, there are 2 different ways of resequencing on a text. If you have Chroma Lux, which is what I'm using right now, you have a quick drop-down box that will allow you to reorder your text. So if I'm looking at the upper right-hand area, under that text box option, I can see I have order. And so I can have this stitch left to right, which if I show you the slow redraw, it's just going to go R-I-C-O-M-A, or I could have it stitch left to center, center right, right left. So I always like to choose center right, and then that way what we can see here is it's actually going to begin in the middle and it goes outwards. So I have M-O-C-I-R, and then it goes back to the right hand side and does the rest of it. Okay, so center right is a good option for a hat. Now, if you have Chroma Inspire, you can still resequence on text. You just have to do it manually. So here's how you would do that. You're selecting your text, and anytime you want to manipulate each individual letter, you have to break up that text. So right now it's just one object, and whatever I try to do to it, it's going to do to the entire words. If I right click, break up text, then you can see on my lower right hand corner sequence panel, I have each individual letter. So from here, I could select the A, H, A, T, and I can just drag that up towards the top. And, oops. So I have A, H, A, T, then I want the M, the O, the C, I, R, and what I'm doing here, I'm just holding down Control to select all, and I can drag that below. So, okay, so let's take a look. So I have the A, then it goes out to the H, A, T, and then the M, O, C, I, R. So I just selected the letters, and you can segment it. Maybe we want to start with the M and have it stitch out those 5 letters and then do the last 4, or whatever method. So any questions you guys have, you can chat them in that chat box feature, and I'll be sure to answer. So far, went over just the principles of sequencing, making sure you're layering in the correct way. So designing from the bottom moving up. Also sequencing on a hat, and then when it makes sense, resequence by color. That way it'll eliminate a lot of color changes that are unnecessary. So I want to open up a design that has a couple different elements here, and this design is going to go onto a hat. So how might I begin this design? Well, I know I want it to go bottom moving up, and I know I want it to go middle moving outwards. The sequence that's going to make the most sense, like what should take priority, is middle out. So center outwards, that's number 1. Then we'll go bottom to the top. And these, you get what I mean here. So what I want to look at here is, first I could take a look at how it sequences or how it stitches out. And it actually shows me it does the middle area, then the orange. So the green, then the orange, which is how I would like it. Because if this is going on a hat, we want to, as much as we can, we want to flatten out that center seam area. When you put a hat onto the machine, there's going to be a little bit of a bubble right in the middle of the hat on top of that needle plate. So if we can have this green part of the design stitch out first and really flatten out that area of the hat, then it's going to help everything else stitch out nice and smooth. If we had, say, the orange stitch first, then what we might have is a big bubble of fabric right in the middle. So if we're looking at this and it goes, the orange, then it stitches in the middle, that's not flattened out yet. So once the green goes down, we could have what's called puckering, or we might just have a needle break. The other part of this that is sequenced in a way that makes most sense is actually the orange component of the design. If we take a look at just that area, so I'm going to just hide the other part. The way that this stitches is we have all of these small little leaves, and each one stitches back and forth, and then after they stitch, the machine will finish the top leaf and then move back down and covering the center. So I want to take a look at how this sequences. So leaves, leaves, and it just moves up towards the top. When we get to the top, it does that final leaf at the top and then moves back down. And when you see it move back down towards the end, then the machine just makes a short jump and does the other side. So we don't want the machine to have to move too much. So eliminating the distance is going to be best. So again, let's just take a look. So we have the leaves. And after the machine does that final center stem area, it's back towards the bottom and it can finish off that small, like 4-petal design right back where the machine ended. Okay. Okay, so the other component of this design, the other bit that's important is the placement and the sequencing of, say, these small leaves. So if we're making, say, some objects that are all, going to be repeating, and we have a couple of them. Maybe they have like a little circle pattern. Well, a lot of times we're going to see that we have a jump stitch. So you can see in all of these objects, I do have a little string that's sort of connecting them, right? And we can clearly see that string on the screen. So if we're going to stitch this out, we're probably going to see that and we'll have to make a cut and it'll be a lot more work for us. Now, in some cases, what we could do is we could just add a trim. And to add a trim, we're going to select the object. We can go to our upper right-hand command tab, and we can add an end command, which would trim the thread. So command, trim, we click apply. So you can actually select all of them at once, and then you can, trim everything. So now, because these are all created in a different sequence, right? It doesn't just go top, down, moving. We even have some longer jump stitches. What we can do to eliminate or shorten a jump stitch is we can change our start and stop points. When you select an object and then when you click onto your shape tool, you will notice a red and green dot. If I change the start or stop point to have this object stop where the other object starts, we can really eliminate or shorten the jump stitch. And we can see right off the bat, it changed the direction. So this one, if I'm stopping, say, here and starting over here, you're going to see how that changed the jump stitch. So we can easily change start and stop just to make that little jump stitch shorter, or in the case that we have a lot of small objects like in this pattern, we would want the start and stop to be as close to each other again. So we have our start and stop right here on the tip of these shapes. And so that way, when one completes, the other one begins at almost the same location. Now for these leaves or feather pattern, the way that this sequences out is it's going to move like this. We have one at the bottom, one next to it. So they're moving in a nice method. They're moving really close. Then we have one and it jumps a little bit further. So what if we actually had this one stitch first, then this one, then we move up, then we move back down. So we're moving in a zigzag motion. That is going to, again, eliminate or change the jump stitches. So after this one, we want this one to stitch. And we can either drag them or we can arrange them. So we have this one, then we have this one. We can move it, forward. This one. We want that to be forward. Oops, no. This one. So it's moving a little bit back and forth, and then, finishes off. And again, we can always go back to, say, changing the start stop to make these jump stitches make a lot more sense. If we're maybe connecting these with some sort of line, then we can hide the jump stitch. So similar to the other object that we had, if we have these triangle shapes and they're all like this, then you can see the start and stop. We can edit and really hide that jump stitch on the bottom if, say, we're going to add another component to it, like a connecting line. So just clicking through, editing the start and stop, and then let's say we have a little connecting line, and that's going to be something that will hide those jump stitches altogether. Always start one object where the other ends. So you can switch that. And if we look at it now, we have the little triangle, jumps over, does the other one, jumps, jumps, jumps. And then right where the last one finishes off, it will do that last bottom stitch. So do we have questions about the jump stitches, the trims, sequencing, changing start and stop points? Have you guys experienced anything when you're stitching things out? A lot of times when you make your file, you're going to run a test design, and then you see how it stitches out on the machine, and you can make some edits from there. So after you see it stitch out, maybe you have a little bit of puckering in your garment, and then you can always edit and change how it sequences to get just a nice, more consistent design. So if you guys have any questions about even something else, feel free to ask that. You send in a message in the chat box. Okay, unless you guys have any questions, that's it for today. So we have webinars twice per week, sometimes more often. You can always sign up for the classes in your portal, and the topics will differ every week. So you'll see the topic listed next to the class, and you guys are always able to ask questions throughout the live webinar. Again, every topic is a little bit different, so today was very specific. If you want to save a file, you go to File, Save As, save the RDE, so save the original Chroma RDE. Then you go to File, Save As, and you save it as the Chroma DST. So you're always saving two formats. Always make sure you save the original RDE format because that is the one that you will actually edit from. If I open up the DST, it will be very hard for me to edit because it's all segmented into every little bit and section. So it's going to be very hard for me to select something and edit. If I open the RDE file, so the RDE, then I have easily editing capabilities, and we can easily drag and change things. Okay? So the webinars are at least twice per week. The dates change, the times can be different as well. Okay, so any last questions, ask them now. Again, you can sign up for multiple live webinars in your customer portal. The topic will be listed next to the class, and it will also say if it's beginner, intermediate, The description will be listed as well in the important note, and you can see exactly what we'll be covering. A lot of the topics are very specific, but we do have some introduction to digitizing and basic digitizing courses that go through a lot of just the basics for beginners. We have a full YouTube channel that you can watch to really gain a lot of knowledge and practice as well. And you will be able to send an email to service@racoma.com with any specific questions. To view this recording, log back into your customer portal and you'll be able to see the recordings of any past webinar from this point on. So if you sign up for a webinar, you'll see the recording right in your customer portal.